since I know the public's going to be watching this, here's some things that you need to think about with wire fraud. And unfortunately, it's gotten very sophisticated. You know, the bad guys will actually, they can go in and they can copy people's signatures on their email. And so you really think that you're getting an email from the person you've been communicating with.
That happened to me.
But you're not.
That happened to me. Somebody sent me an email and it looks exactly, except with dot, like the title company escrow officer I was talking to. She said, "Hey, Danielle." Hi, everybody. This is Danielle Bilumbu with DBK Real Estate, and we have another episode of Let's Keep It Real today. I am here, your host, and here's my bestie, Abu Jabi.
Jabi with AMP Lending. How y'all doing today?
Great. So today we're going to talk about something that is really, really important in the real estate world, right? Everybody buy and sell, but somebody needs to do the job as far as doing the transfer and make sure the title has been transferred the right way. So we are here. We have a special guest. Her name is LISA.KIM, and she's with Patent Title, and she's gonna teach us Title 101. How are you, Kim?
All right. Hello. How are you? Thanks for having me, Danielle.
Great. So go ahead and talk to us a little bit about your company. Who are you working with?
Right. I work for Patent Title. We are a Houston-based title company. We're only in the state of Texas. We have 6 Houston area offices, and we have 4 in the Austin area.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yes.
And then, so what I know, Realtor, we oftentimes go, okay, we under transaction, listing agent, buyer agent, and then everybody was like, oh, we're going to go with this title company. And the other one say, well, no, we're going to pick this title company. People go back and forth on this. Who really decide which title company they should go with?
Typically, it's who's paying for the title insurance policy. Mm-hmm. So I can talk a little bit about the title insurance policy. So we are a title insurance company.
Okay.
And so we're regulated by the Texas Department of Insurance. And we are probably the most heavily regulated in the insurance industry, but rightfully so, right? We protect people's major assets. So those fees are all regulated. Mm-hmm. And so typically it's who is going to pay for that fee. The title policy fee is based on the sales price of the home.
Yes.
Yeah. And so title insurance is a little bit different than other types of insurance. Usually insurance is going to protect you from something if it happens in the future. If there's an auto accident, something like that. Title insurance protects you from things that have happened in the past.
Yes.
So for an example, that would be for, if you purchase a home and you're living in the home and 6 months later there's a knock on the door and there's somebody standing there and they say, my parents own this property and they, I was in prison, they were deceased and my brother and sister sold it out from underneath me. So a third of this house is mine. And if that's a true story, indeed, that would be a claim on the title insurance policy because that person is indeed an heir and was justly to have a third of that property.
This is somebody's worst nightmare.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But yeah, so if you don't have a title insurance policy, then what happens then? That would be a problem.
Yeah, so in a case like that, then you have to resolve in court or the title policy will go ahead and take in place, maybe pay the person whatever
exactly.
It is
So basically the homeowner at that point would contact the underwriter for the title insurance policy, mm-hmm. and then that would be a conversation between the person who had been left out of title and the underwriter to go ahead and make that person whole.
Oh wow, yeah.
Right. So then of course the homeowner's kind of like washing their hands from it. So
that's why it's very important for anybody when you're purchasing a property. It's better just pay the small fee the title company charge you. Because their job is to make sure
right
you are really purchasing a property for your at your own name. Because I've seen some people, they're like, sometimes when I deal with investors and you contact them, the seller directly, and they're like, oh no, we don't need to go to the title company. Right. Let's just do it together. I'm like,
right.
No, we're not going to do it this way. But what other things people need to really pay attention with the title anything with a title company in general, because I know they're not all equal. You just explained us the title policy is regulated by the state of Texas, which are the fees that come with it.
Right. So then you're going to have fees like our company charges a $550 escrow fee for residential transactions. So that's a double-sided fee. And then other than that, all of our fees are rolled into there. So we're not going to charge a notary fee, a courier fee, copy fees. Mm-hmm. It's just that one fee. And that's how we keep the lights on. Okay. The other fees that are typically charged are recording fees that are regulated by the county that the property is located in, mm-hmm. those kind of things. So it really is the biggest difference between title companies is the level of service.
Okay.
And so if I can speak to that for a few minutes, we really believe in...
Go for it.
Yeah,
Please.
We really believe in partnering with our clients. It's really important for realtors to build their database, and a lot of it comes from referrals.
Okay.
And so when people walk out of our title company, I want their clients to be so pleased with the seamless service that they received that they can't wait to refer their agent to their coworker or neighbor who's going to be buying or selling a home.
That's nice.
And so we really believe in very individualized, intensive, professional service. So we get to know our clients, how they like to be communicated with. We take great pride in our service. And so a lot of it, I'll tell you what, I think probably the number one reason real estate transactions bust apart is communication or lack of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, we are very proactive. We want to, as a company, we have 7 examiners.
Okay.
And so the examiners are the ones who's going to get the original contract and start the investigation, so to speak, on the property, to look at the chain of title, to look and see if there's any outstanding liens, debts, judgments, all of those things. And so then they're going to produce a title commitment from that examination.
Explain what's exactly a title commitment.
Right. So the title commitment is basically saying that the underwriters will give a title insurance policy.
Okay.
There's 4 schedules on a title commitment. And so A is going to cover the actual facts. It's going to talk about the property, the legal description, the parties that are involved. Schedule B is going to talk about any exclusions that are on the title insurance policy.
Okay.
And this is going to cover things like easements and just anything, fence lines that are not off, so those kind of things are going to be on Schedule B. And then Schedule C is where everyone really needs to pay their attention because that needs to be cleared to close.
Yes.
So any item on Schedule C needs to be addressed prior to closing, and then of course if it's like a lien or something, that can be paid at closing. But Schedule C is going to tell you where we are with the property. So if you, so on Schedule C, if the property has judgments or heaven help you, federal tax liens, those kind of things, it's going to take a long time to cure.
Could you see if, for example, people going toward divorce, does it show up in the Schedule C?
It depends. If they have filed and there's a divorce decree, yes.
Okay.
If they have just agreed that they're going to be separating, and sometimes people do that, they agree that they're going to be separating, they understand that they need to sell the house, but to expedite the process, they stay, in a married state and will file after.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you see also, if, for example, the person passed away, do you see that on the Schedule C if one of the owner passed away or stuff like that?
Yes, that should be on Schedule C.
Okay. So pretty much anybody out there, they're selling a home or buying, need to take a look at the Schedule C.
Right, absolutely. Schedule C is very important. And then the last schedule of the title commitment is Schedule D, and that's going to be any kind of business relationships, all of that's going to be disclosed there. That's the disclosure part of it.
Okay.
But yes, since you mentioned deceased on title, let's go ahead and talk about that for a minute, because of course that's something that needs to be addressed. And, and it comes into a situation where if you have a person who's deceased on title, did they have a will? Has it been probated? All of those things come into play.
Okay.
Now, there's certain things that you can do if someone has passed away and they did not have a will. You can do what's called an affidavit of heirship.
Okay.
And so basically that's somebody who's not an interested party. It can't be a family member, but they can make a statement saying, I've known this person for more than 10 years, and to my knowledge, these are their heirs.
Okay.
And so then that is, would address anybody, coming up, 20 years later going, I'm a son, so.
Okay, so that affidavit is for pretty much anybody can do that? Like.
Yeah, I don't want to say give it a blanket statement, but most of the time we can clear a lot of things up with an affidavit of heirship.
And the person have to be knowing them for like at least 10 years or something like that?
At least 10 years.
Okay.
And then they cannot be a relative, and that includes in-laws.
Okay,
So
and it can be more than 3 or 2 or 5?
No, it has to be more than 10.
Oh,
More,
you need 10 people saying that.
No, I'm sorry. It's 2 people for more than 10 years.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
But that will help
Yeah.
expedite the process.
Yes.
Okay, but the property do or do not need to be past probate or during or after. How?
So in certain circumstances, you can use the affidavit of heirship instead of going to probate.
Okay, that's sweet.
Right.
That
so
helps.
patent title, we do have in-house legal counsel.
Okay.
And that's very helpful because not only can our legal team provide a legal perspective on that, we also have resources to go ahead and draft those affidavit of heirships. And so that's, and it's a very cost-effective way how we go about doing that. So.
Okay. And then which other things people, especially for sellers, they need to know also about title, do you think?
Yeah, for title, basically, if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, probably the most important thing to think, is if there's any kind of situation where there's, like we just mentioned, that there's a death on title. Then that's going to be important. If there's a divorce decree, of course, that's going to be important. So, but for us, pretty much once we receive an executed contract, we just go ahead and do the examination phase and then just see what might be on title at that point.
So I have here, guys, I want to show you what Lisa has, and then she can provide you guys if you want a copy. Anybody can contact you?
Yeah, so actually I have those electronically. And so those are a great resource for realtors because it's a very thorough guide of the buying and selling process. It has a glossary of terms, and it really outlines the entire transaction. There's a timeline in there so your clients know what to expect next. And so certainly that's something I can provide to you, and you can just forward it to your clients, and they can use it for a reference.
Okay, and then this is pretty good. I can see here you do have explained the closing cost, but most of the closing costs people have to pay. It doesn't necessarily come from you. It's just the regular closing costs with purchasing a home, correct?
Right. So, for a buyer, their closing costs, it's an inclusive term. So it's going to include not only the title fees, but also the lender fees. And when you're talking about your closing costs, typically people are also referring to how much down that they're paying, their down payment.
Okay. And as for on the buying side, because you also help buyers into their transaction, and then she also have this beautiful guide right here that you guys can make sure to contact us, and she will be able to email you a copy if you need it. For the buyer, what buyer really need to pay attention with title?
Well, with title, the most important thing they need to pay attention to is their lender. And you got a good one here, folks. Yes, I mean, that really is the most important aspect for a buyer is if they're going with a loan, that they really have a lender who is thoroughly professional and knows the products that they're selling. So so that's the biggest thing for a buyer. As far as for a buyer on title, of course they want to look at Schedule C. They want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to come back. Another thing that can be a claim on a title insurance policy would be a mechanic's lien.
Okay.
And so what that looks like is if you have, let's say the original homeowner decides to put in a pool.
Yes.
They contract with a pool person. They decide they're going to pay $100,000 for this pool.
And then dispute.
And so then they get down the road and they pay $90,000. And then they're like, well, I don't know. You kind of didn't really, finish this the way we wanted, so I'm not going to pay you the last $10,000. Well, that contractor can file a mechanic's lien on the property. And so that would be something that needs to be cured either before or at closing. Okay. And so if that's not cured, then down the road, when they go to sell the property, if another examiner finds it and says there's this outstanding lien, well, that's, if they don't have a title insurance policy, that's their lien.
Oh, wow. So pretty much, contractor, it's true. They can put a lien on anybody's property. And as far, I was looking at here. So when we enter in the contract, the first 3 days, the option fee and the earnest money needs to be given within 3 days based on the contract to the title company. Before the option fee, Realtor used to collect that. Right. And we go and give it to the seller. And what used to happen is sometimes we collect that check. Maybe the listing agent say, put that in the counter in the kitchen, but what guarantee that the seller really receive it? Or it used to be between agent, but it looks like it used to have a lot of problem. Right. And the Texas Real Estate Commission changed that and put that with the earnest money to drop at the title company. Absolutely, yes. So now people either, if they need to give a check to you guys, they can either use electronic payment or drop a check and all that.
So you can use a personal check for your earnest money and option fee. Mm-hmm. You can use a cashier's check. You can wire the funds. And if you are using a check, you can use our LISA.KIM app. Mm-hmm. And so basically that is an app that remotely and securely transfers the earnest money, option fee, and even the contract to the title insurance company. So as you mentioned, Danielle, the buyer has 3 days to get that in. And so weekends count on those days unless it's the third day and the title company's closed, then they have until the next business day. Okay. But with LISA.KIM, you can do it at midnight on a Sunday. You can do it over Friday night at midnight. So you can do those without worrying about getting a physical check to the title insurance company.
Yes. And I want to talk about something that we see oftentimes, wire fraud.
Yes. Unfortunately, that is very big in our industry.
Yeah, they make us stop. Before we used to put the title company information. When you're a realtor, you have the agent remarks and you have the public remark. Public remark, everybody can see it. Agent remark, it's just between us agent that we see in the MLS. And then we used to put the title company's information. Now they make us remove it. We don't have the right to put that anymore there. It has to be an attachment, a document attached. So what would you say about this subject, like wire fraud and...
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is very real in our industry. As a company, we have taken measures to, certainly prevent it. We work through a secure portal. It's called Qualia. That is our escrow processing software. And so our wiring instructions are in there. And then our escrow team has a verification process that they go through with buyers to make sure that they are sending the money to the correct account. And so just, since I know the public's going to be watching this, here's some things that you need to think about with wire fraud. And unfortunately, it's gotten very sophisticated. The bad guys will actually, they can go in and they can copy people's signatures on their email. And so you really think that you're getting an email from the person you've been communicating with.
That happened to me.
But you're not.
That happened to me. Somebody sent me an email and it looks exactly, except for dot. Like the title company escrow officer I was talking to, she said, "Hey, Danielle, we had a problem in our computer system and I lost your client information for that specific transaction. Would you mind sharing their information with me?" And I looked at it. I was like, "Oh," and I replied back. I said, "Yeah, sure, as soon as I can." And then I went back to the email again and I looked and I was like, "Hold on, wait a minute. This doesn't look like the person," because I also called them. And then I realized, no, that was a fraud. So I forward that to the title company and say, "Hey, this person send me that email, so pay attention to it."
Yes, we've had that in our office as well. But certainly what you want to be aware of is, any kind of language that has misspellings or grammatical errors, that's probably not a legit. If there's any logos that are fuzzy, but the biggest thing is that, the fraudsters are going to have you in a hurry, right? So if you don't, if you don't send your option, or if you don't send the wire, within the next 24 hours, we're not going to be able to process your transaction. We're going to have to stop working on it. You're going to lose the property. Any kind of thing like that. Title companies are not in a hurry to get your money.
And then title companies, they usually don't ask you that. The person is going to tell you what you need to do is either your lender or your realtor.
Right.
We are the one on the schedule and tell you. Title company will never say, "Send me this within 2 days."
The title company will never say you need to hurry and urgently send your wire. That's just not something that any title company will do.
Yeah. What's some of the horror story that you had?
Well, we've had, as a company, we've had our, things come through that were, false. So, I'm part of the business development team and not on the escrow team, so they probably would have better stories. But I know that there has been some, issues like that. Or the other thing that comes through is that somebody will try to say that there's a lien on the property, they want to pay off for the lien, or they know there is a payoff that's due, and they'll try to circumvent that. So those are kind of the things that we see with wire fraud. Mm-hmm. But, one of the things that I just remembered, we were talking about this. So, you mentioned about what are sellers, if they are going to be putting a property on the market, what does that look like for them?
Yes.
But the other thing, too, is if there's any errors involved in the, in the process of the sale of that property, it's really a great idea to start getting everybody on board prior, as soon as you can, because if you have 9 heirs on a property and maybe, one's in prison, one's a missionary, one's, in the military, I mean, it's going to take a minute to track some folks down.
I know.
So that would be one thing that you really would want to.
Yeah. And one of the things with that is just remember, it's not that serious. Whatever you went through with your brother, your sister, your cousin, whoever is on title with you is not that serious. Because at the end of the day, if everybody wants to sell, just come to an agreement.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunate. We've had pins flying through escrow teams, through escrow rooms, for people who are frustrated and feeling like they're not, whatever the situation is. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, we can all get along, right? We're all grown up and professional.
Mm-hmm. And then as far, so we talk about for buyers and sellers, but what would you say for a realtor? Why title company is so important for a realtor?
Absolutely. Well, it really is. It goes back to that level of service, right? You are bringing us an opportunity to work with you and your clients, and you want it to be seamless. You want it to be, you want to be communicated with. You want to know what's coming up, and if there's any problems, you want to know about them as soon as possible. So as a company, we return our title commitments in 2 business days.
Okay.
And one of the reasons, so there's several reasons we do that, but one of the reasons is if there is anything on Schedule C, we want to get a jump start on it because we're a very solutions-oriented title company, and our job is to get everybody to the closing table in a timely fashion. And so whatever we can do to make that happen, because, you know, in our industry, nobody gets paid until it's funds.
Exactly.
So, you know, whatever we can do to get everyone to the closing table. So a part of it is that, you know, returning the title commitments within 2 business days.
Yep.
And again, we work with 4 underwriters. And so this gives us opportunities because levels of, you know, the underwriters all have different levels of being conservative and the things that they're, you know, able to do and things that they're not willing to insure. And so for us as a company, if one underwriter is not comfortable with something, then we want to, you know, the ability to go and have a conversation with another underwriter. And so that's another thing that we do to be solutions oriented and get your clients to the closing table.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I can attest to that because I've been working with them for 14 years now with Toby and Nicole, and they're great. We're able to talk to them after hours, whatever we need to get done. That team over there with our Juno and Dell, they're able to expedite things in a timely fashion.
Absolutely.
And we definitely appreciate that. And yeah, it's definitely somebody that y'all want to look into and use for their transactions because their customer service is above and beyond.
This is awesome. But we talk about regular buyer and seller, but I know you also help those sophisticated buyers and seller over there, which we call them our investors.
Yes, absolutely.
So how does that work? You are able to do which type of transaction with them?
Yeah, so we're a very investor-friendly title company. So we do have teams that will process assignments, subject tos, double closings, wraps. So those are, you know, transactions that we process, and certainly would be happy to help anybody with that, or, you know, and answer any questions. I know sometimes people have different questions about, especially assignments, about the contract that needs to be used and that kind of thing. And so that's certainly something our teams can walk realtors through and investors. Yeah.
But let's just break it down a little bit, those ones. So when she say assignment of contract, it's pretty much you enter into contract with somebody to purchase the home, and then you put your name, the buyer name, and then you just put assigned to. Eventually you're going to turn around and resell that paper transaction or contract to somebody else, and then
prior to closing.
Prior to closing, and then you also have the pass through, right? You say you're doing that too?
No, we can do double closing. There's no pass through funding, but we can do double closings. Yes.
So pretty much is someone who's purchasing under contract is purchasing a property, but he's you closing with somebody, and right away you turn around and close with somebody else right away.
You're basically selling it on the same day. Yes.
And then assume I'm sorry.
The subject to?
Subject to, ooh la la.
Right.
And then you do subject to. Would you not break down that one up? The subject to.
And so basically what a subject to is that the person who owns the property has, let's say they've got a great interest rate, maybe their loan's at 3%. And so there's another person who wants to purchase it, but they can only get a 7% loan. So basically it's changing title subject to the initial loan staying in place. So the buyer is now taking over the payments for the seller's loan.
Yes. So Abu, you have been probably seen a lot of these this year, right? Because the rates are so high.
Yeah, the rates are high. I haven't seen too many of them, but I am aware that they are, you know, they're able to do that as well.
Right. In order for you to do that, you have to make sure that your lender will let you, allow you to do that.
Well, there's cases where the lender does not know.
Okay.
And so that's if you're going to let the lender know, that's going to be a loan assumption.
Okay.
And so that's a little bit different because then you're going to go through the buyer will go through a credit approval process.
Okay. And you also have you've seen some assumable loan too, right?
I've seen some.
Is there a lot lately?
I haven't seen a lot this year, but from time to time they have been taking place.
Okay, so pretty much it's somebody else taking over your mortgage.
Correct.
But does it require title change too? When somebody assume, I
guess,
yeah.
Because you're actually transferring the title of the property, yeah. So there's going to be a deed.
And then you guys do that too?
Yes, yeah. So it's basically just another form of financing.
Okay.
But, yeah.
How about property taxes?
Yes.
Boo!
Property taxes, new construction.
Oh my goodness.
New construction property
For anybody that buying new construction, the taxes are so low at closing, and then they wake up the next year and it's like, woo, the price went up.
And so certainly as a title company, we try to, get the taxes as close to possible. And so certainly that's something that's taken into consideration. So the escrow teams will look at that. They'll do an evaluation of what the taxes, if they know the taxes for the previous year, then they'll base it off of that. But yeah, with new construction, the taxes, it's of course because you're paying taxes on land value, and then all of a sudden there's an improvement. So of course it's going to naturally increase. So yes.
Yeah. So for us here at A&P Lending, what we like to do is go ahead and do it off the land and the improvements, and give you a 20% discount on your homestead exemption, and be able to do your taxes based off of that, so you don't have a payment shock.
Yep, that's a great plan.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. And then if for example they collected too much taxes, you guys are in charge of refunding.
Absolutely, yes.
Anything over 10%, that's in escrow, they get refunded back.
Yeah. And also when you go to closing, you guys you do a lot of payment, not just for buyer, seller, and all that, but you also do a lot of payment. Like you are in charge of paying. If there is a survey, you pay the survey, and all these different vendors, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes.
And how does that work?
So basically, if there's you mentioned survey, if there's a survey required on a transaction, then we will, as soon as we get the green light to order it, we can order it. If the client wants to shop for it on their own and order it, that's fine as well. But we will do that. And then the vendor, it's just a vendor payout for them to do that. Yes, and so if there's any
the home warranty,
yeah,
too.
as soon as the the title, the transaction funds, then that's when everybody gets paid. We will cut checks for any liens that are outstanding. And then, of course, pay the realtor commission, make sure that the seller gets their net proceeds. Yes.
So pretty much the goal is when someone closes at the title company, you walk away with your key or you walk away with your check.
Yes.
And you should not have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, or if you sold it, you can give your keys to somebody else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully you guys learned a lot today. And then how can people get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So again, my name is LISA.KIM, and I'm with Patent Title. So my cell phone number is area code 713-598-6450. And my email address is LISA.KIM@patenttitle.com. And again, Patent Title is PATTEN.
Yeah, let me
so
show you
yeah,
right
absolutely would love to answer any questions that you might have, and we do have bilingual teams. So if you are working with Spanish-speaking clients, we have some of our marketing materials and information in Spanish, as well as some great teams that will be able to communicate with your clients in their preferred language. And of course, this is the escrow team, and so they're able to, they're the ones who prepare the documents, so they are able to explain it and just go through in detail, so that there's a good understanding for everybody. We want everyone to be comfortable. It's a big transaction. It's important for us that everyone's comfortable.
Yeah, so hopefully you really truly learn a lot. Pay attention to your Schedule C, just like she said, buyer or seller. Remember, as a buyer or seller, you're not obligated to use the other title company. You can pick whoever you want. And but usually it's the one who's paying for it.
The one who's paying for it usually is the one who has the biggest voice.
Yes, the biggest voice. But if you have any question, do not hesitate to contact Lisa. She's right here for you. Thank you so much for watching us. Make sure to follow us in all our social media. Have an amazing day and see you soon.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.